Our first question is, how will you ensure that both large, well-supported and well-established groups and smaller, newer groups get the support that they need at Royal Holloway? Izzy?
I think for me a big thing is making sure we don't just allow sort of one format for feedback. I think different groups need to have different feedback opportunities. So I think focus groups or maybe like sort of, open sessions with VP Soccer Sport need to be run separately. Why don't we have one for off-campus sports, one for new societies? Because so often I think groups get lumped together and, for example, like what one group needs is not going to be the same as what another group needs. What swimming is not going to be what lacrosse needs. What MTS need isn't going to be what debate need. And I think we need to sort of get more feedback from students as well as to what they need. I'd maybe propose putting out whether it be monthly or timely feedback forms on how groups feel like they're being supported, because then people won't feel like they're losing their voice as much.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Izzy. Yes.
For me, I think having a really strong mentorship program will be helpful in getting groups the support they need. So like working with the actual committees continuously will be really helpful. Asking the committees directly what they need and helping them from their perspective rather than what we're kind of assuming they'll want from us. And helping with promotion, because I think we kind of lack there a little bit with promoting clubs and promoting people doing it. We start with Freshers Fair and it's this massive event and then we kind of fall off a bit with promoting the clubs. I also want to really prioritise promoting the smaller clubs to increase engagement, because I think they really need that.
Perfect, thank you. Grace?
It's sort of going off both of your points, but I think there does need to be a lot more nuance when you're thinking about how to support each student group separately. So bigger groups have much different issues from smaller groups. And when people are assigned funding at the beginning of the year, it needs to take into account more than just the membership base, but what their core expenses. Are they an on-campus group or are they an off-campus group? And that's something that needs to be considered when allocating funds. In terms of promoting, I really want to support all groups to get involved and give it a go in some way. But I would really like to platform that whole thing for smaller societies and sports groups individually. Additionally, having like a second Freshers Fair in term 2 might be a good way to, again, for only smaller student groups to get involved with, give them a space and a platform to find the members.
Perfect, thank you so much.
So for bigger and more established groups, I'll focus on having streamlining processes and ensuring that they have resources to keep thriving. And also making sure that now every events that are happening, we don't really know what the societies are doing as a whole of the university, because not all students know what they're doing. So making sure that maybe weekly recognition of the best event that's happened, so that they keep having that motivation. And for smaller groups, make mentorship programs. And also one of my priorities is to have societies do collaborative events to connect interdisciplinary connections. So that's really important.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, going on her point, I think one of the most important things is communication. So I want to create a support plan that kind of ensures that large groups maintain their momentum, and then smaller ones can use those resources and visibility to grow up and become a bigger group as well. And I want to do regular check-ins with the different groups so that they all feel like they're being heard. And doing societies of the week, promoting that and doing insights into the different events they do through the content creation and interviews, I think is a really good way of people to get to find out more about them.
Perfect, thanks guys.
Okay, so next question is, as VP Soc Sport, what would you do to support committee members who feel that they may be burnt out or under too much pressure?
So I think continuous training and workshops for committees is really important. I think we do the training at the beginning of the year and it's really good, and then we kind of lose focus on where that training was, and continuing it and allowing committees more time to then learn the role would be really important. I would also propose a buddy system where we pair up different committees from different clubs and societies and kind of get them to work together, bounce ideas off each other. And then also just doing feedback and check-in forms with the SU directly so that they kind of feel supported on a one-on-one basis.
I'll create a support network where committee members can connect with each other, share experiences and get advice. I will also make sure that they know about the student support services that are available to them, and I'll also be available to chat with them. So making sure that me as a VP Sports and Soc candidate going to them and talking to them all the time.
I would do, in addition to the regular drop-ins, help run student groups, and also maybe partner with VP Wellbeing to do wellbeing drop-ins for committees. I think that's really important to feel like you have a space just to vent. And also, I think more regular recognition, maybe committee member of the month, because in a certain way, feeling like you're being recognised and you're not just shouting into the void can be really rewarding. I do think we need, recognition outside of the 2 big awards per year.
I will push for good training in mental health resources, accompanied with a mentorship where previous committee members can kind of drop in and give feedback and advice to the new committee members to learn how to solve the issues they're having at the moment. And then encouraging teamwork and delegation that can probably ease the pressure of those committee members.
At the moment I know Liv is running like drop-in sessions for committee members, but I would probably actually reach out myself as well as hosting those drop-ins to check on individuals and make sure they're okay. I also think it's important with student group training, it's probably really important to teach people how to communicate effectively within that group. So if somebody's taken on too much workload, and that happens because they're at university, people need to feel like they can safely say to the rest of their committee, hey guys, I've taken on too much, can I give this task away to somebody? And I think encouraging that sort of communication within the student group is really powerful.
Perfect, thank you. Just before we move on to the next question, I just wanted to mention time again. A few of you are over, but we'll certainly finish your sentence and then we'll say thank you. So next question, what steps would you take to ensure fair distribution of resources between sports teams and societies?
I think we need to acknowledge that different groups have different needs and make sure everyone's accounted for. As someone who's on committee for both societies and sports, we do see how it can sometimes be different. And I think there also needs to be more communication about, where resources come from, what needs to be allocated. So the difference, for example, between Royal Holloway Sport and the SU. But I also think there needs to be more regular feedback and forms so student groups can explain what they need. So whether that's on the summer sort of budgeting forms, you have a separate bit for supporting why you need extra resources, and again, the candidates we've talked about it, but different funding for on-campus and off-campus groups. And I think maybe funding as a reward as well, maybe if you've got student group of the month, why can't there be a grant for that kind of thing?
I would gather information from clubs about what they need in terms of funding and to ensure fairness, I'll be really transparent with what each club's receiving. I want to create like a tiered system where both small and large clubs have the opportunity to receive funding based on their current activity level, size, potential growth and accessibility.
I'll actually work with the SU to create a clear and transparent funding system based on different aspects like membership size, activity level, or the impact the impact the group has on campus life. I think that's really important. So giving those people more and keeping it fair.
I think it's just me, sorry. So obviously on top of what you guys said about making sure there's nuance in funding, I think it's important again to regularly check in with student group leaders and ask them, do you think that you're achieving everything you planned this year? Is there anything we can do to support you? Do you feel like you're getting the resources you need? And literally just asking a question as simple as that, you might actually find from some groups that they don't feel they're being treated fairly. So simply just reaching out.
Yeah, I think I mean, I kind of have nothing else to say, they've said it all, but it's just about kind of talking to them and seeing what they need, seeing if we have the money for it. Sometimes the SU or the Sports Centre doesn't have that money, so we need to also understand when the money's there, where it can be distributed, and just making sure it's used fairly and correctly.
Perfect, thanks guys.
So we're going to our first sort of audience question of the evening that's been submitted on our Instagram. And a member of the audience is asking sort of what experience in societies or in university life do you have where those skills are transferable to VP, society and sports? And yeah, just go into a bit of detail on that. So.
I think I have a lot of experience when it comes to societies because I've worked with many different societies and I've also been a part of many societies. I've been in musical theatre in the Catholic Society and I've also been in first aid and a few more drop-in sessions, but that's about it when it comes to that. But then working with them, I've done a lot of videography, filming their events and kind of promoting their events. And I think as VP Sports and Societies, it's really important for you to kind of promote those societies and those sports. So having that media knowledge is really good to kind of get them to be known by everyone, and it could be pretty helpful.
For me, I'm part of these societies as well, so I know firsthand what it means to send those proposals, how those risk assessments are supposed to be done, and what are the challenges faced during doing that, and how the communication between the SU and the student really is. Those continuous emails that you get back, like when you are submitting those proposals, all of that is like I have gone through that, so I kind of know what students would need to kind of better that system of like event proposals and that time. Maybe now there's almost only 3 people really like to answer all the people, all the 100 societies that are there. There are only 3 people in charge of the SU. So kind of dividing that work, I know what it really is. So
in the last 3 years, I've spent 2 of those years working in the SU and student opportunities, and people might pick up a card reader from me. I've also been like a campus league referee, so I've spent time on the sports side. Then I'm on committee for both societies and sports history. I'm on committee for the orbital, I'm on committee for women's football, and I was for lacrosse last year. I've also won and pressed my work with sports last year and nominated for Society 1 this year. So I think that kind of shows I don't do stuff in halves, and I'd like to think hopefully all-round experience in both the societies and the sports part of the role.
I've obviously been on committee, like most people have, and kind of worked with the SU in that respect and advocated for students and done all of that. I was also a TA in my gap year and worked in a SEND specialist department, so I was kind of advocating for the rights of my students, and I had a few key students that I worked really closely with. I'm a charity volunteer at the NSPCC at the moment, and I kind of am really for advocating for people and being in leadership roles, kind of fighting for what I believe in.
So as I said already, I'm the Games President, and last year I was the Wellbeing Officer, so I have 2 years experience as a student group leader. Outside of that, I work for both the university and have in the past worked for the SU. At the moment, I'm helping with the university on their 2030s plan, where I'm specifically supporting getting more study spaces and improving the sense of community on campus, so I'm actively doing the work that I'm already campaigning for. On top of that, I've helped out with the Disability History Month campaign for the past 2 years, and this year the Stand Up Spiking campaign. So I actually have the experience.
How will you make sure students are aware of wellbeing resources and campaigns? If you will just raise your hand exactly like last time now. Perfect.
I want to lobby the university to invest more funding into the mental health services on campus, and to give proper EDI training to said staff, the mental health and wellbeing staff on campus. Because I know there have been several instances of the wellbeing team ignoring students or being dismissed, the wellbeing dismissing students. I also want to lobby for quicker response times and better communication between departments within the wellbeing team, because they're quite disjointed sometimes. I also want to work closer with the GP on campus to improve the referral services for counselling with the NHS and those types of services with that kind of stuff. And I also want to create detailed and clear informational resources that can be distributed online, on social media and in person, so people have clear ways to know how to access those services on campus with the wellbeing team.
Perfect, thank you so much. Again, just a reminder, Hannah, just sort of like wrap up the sentence that you were saying. Molly.
So I think that social media really needs to be utilised in student campaigns. As I said before, I run Academics Against Assault, so I've done a lot of wellbeing resources that I've created myself and promoted them on social media, so it's something that I've got a lot of experience with. I also think that when we're looking at different campaigns that the university have, especially on topics of wellbeing like spiking, I know I worked on a spiking campaign, and a lot of the time that the wellbeing resources aren't at the top of the page, so making sure, I feel like if you're reading about spiking on an SU website, you're probably someone that's been spiked or knows someone, so it's just making sure that those resources are easily accessible.
I mean, I think kind of like obviously social media is a big thing on accessing wellbeing resources, as Molly said, but also from the part of the university. I know previously, like in terms of like psychology department, they've got, for example, Moodle tutorials. We can do like online tutorials for students who know how to access those resources, and on top of it, making those resources more accessible, because at the moment it is across many different websites rather than in one place, and of course having charities and activist groups come in, do stands and talks.
Perfect, thank you.
So one of my key priorities will be improving communication and visibility of well-being support on campus, because many of you may not know this, but Rhul has one of the best well-being campaigns that there is. And many students, especially international students, neurodiverse students, students with disabilities, they can't get these resources. They can, but they don't get these resources because they are not clearly prompted. and as well as I'll also push for targeted well-being champions that would make sure like every student gets the support that they need and that they want at the right time.
Perfect, thank you.
Just adding on to what everyone else said, everyone in this university is aware that there is a well-being service, but not a lot of students know how to access it. And even if they do know, okay, I can go to this office, or oh, I can email this email, a lot of them are hesitant to do it. Maybe if there is a platform that they can anonymously approach first to make themselves more comfortable and then book an appointment, I think that would be really useful as well.
How will you support and amplify the voices of marginalised student communities on campus? Ashley.
I think I want to link this to a lot of my priorities, starting from more accessible food. There is a lot of communities on campus that don't get basic access to food, such as vegetarian eaters, because there's a lot of community for that, as well as the Muslim community, which is very huge in our university. I want to introduce fresh halal meat. Did you know that all the Muslim students have to go all the way to Staines or Slough just to get some meat? So to introduce that at least once a week in the university is a good option.
As someone who is a part of multiple intersecting marginalised communities, I understand the correct approach of amplifying people's voices instead of talking over them. So I plan to host campaigns, workshops and focus groups throughout the year that focus on student feedback in regard to current concerns from marginalised communities on campus. I want to work collaboratively with cultural and identity-based student groups like societies in order to find out these concerns and correctly approach them and solve them for people on campus. And I would also like to focus on the intersectionality of students and for everyone to have their voices be heard.
So on top of like adding like a focus groups theme, I will kind of like to focus groups not to just be a feedback thing, but also a place for people from marginalised communities to come together. I'm a part of a few marginalised communities myself, so I know, for example, for people that are from a lower socioeconomic background, like my financial policies would cover that in terms of like having surveys and actually feedback from the finance office.
So coming off of what Jacob said about intersectionality, I do think that's really important not to speak over those voices. I think that the idea of working groups, which I've been a part of a few of them in the past, I think getting community officers in those spaces so that they can really advocate for their community's needs without me kind of assuming what they're going to need. I feel like they are the ones that know themselves best and what their people need. Also having student-led policy, I'm really big on making sure that students are as involved as they can be with these campaigns. I feel like different working groups and the WCD in particular, which I was a part of, aren't advertised enough, and ordinary students that have got passions for these issues should be able to get involved in.
Thanks, Molly.
I agree with what people are saying, and as an international student myself, I understand that the challenges that come with adjusting to university life, especially when you're out of your country, and the issues you face, whether it's cultural, whether it's cultural, academic, personal, or financial pressures that you are having while you're studying in university. I'll ensure those international voices, neurodiverse students, disabled students, and other marginalized groups are not only heard but acted upon. I'll establish a student well-being forum where diverse students groups can raise their concerns directly with university leadership. Additionally, I'll make some tailored careers and employability coaches that can help students to get what they want.
So our final question from us, and then we'll go to one that's been submitted from the audience. As VP for Wellbeing and Diversity, what steps would you take to make campus a safer space for students who are experiencing discrimination or harassment?
So I would like to create some focus groups for feedback, but also general support from one student to the other, and also there will be resources there already for them, whether that is mental health resources or according to law. Also, I would like for staff-led workshops, because assuming that people are just uneducated will be a bit silly. People are actually acting that and they think about that, so having staff line out what the consequences of people's actions would be would actually kind of support people have someone on their side.
So student safety is what I think kind of sets me out from the other candidates. It's my first priority to get street lighting sorted in Egham and Engleford Green. I've been working towards student safety campaigns for the last 3 years. Academics Against Assault mainly, we've done rape culture workshops with men's football, men's rugby, American football. So it's all about kind of mandating that, but also introducing a bunch of different other measures. So for example, I want to do get rid of third-party security and bits and pieces like that I feel like will really protect students.
I think knowledge is power, so I would like to increase the promotion within the SUM Royal Holloway of important holidays and months within multicultural, because we are quite a multicultural university. So I think addressing each of those holidays and celebrations, making it known to students, would really help elevate and knowledge, like, so people know about those cultures. And so because I think that knowledge and educating people in the student body increases the inclusivity on campus, but also decreases the discrimination and harassment against students. So I want to educate everyone on it. Yeah.
As for making campus a safer space, I would like to advocate for zero tolerance policy against discrimination and harassment, and we'll make sure there's a system that people feel safe and it's accessible, whoever wants to speak out, and it will be anonymous. And another one, as a careers coach, I have seen firsthand how discrimination and harassment takes a toll at people's careers and employability, as well as students cannot be expected to enter a workforce which they cannot trust or they cannot feel like they feel good in the university. So for that reason, there will be anti-discrimination and inclusivity training for all student staff and other leaders.
Literally just adding on to what everyone said, I think discrimination also buds from just not having the knowledge of what it is, because sometimes not knowing something can scare you. So I think bringing more awareness and education about that can really, it's a small thing, it can happen, and you can make it happen.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, we're just going to move on to the question that we've been asked on Instagram. So how will you help students deal with unexpected financial stress?
So one of my policies is creating and creating that awareness about bursaries, loans, and scholarships that the university offers. On top of it, I would like to reassess some of the finances, working with the finance office, and create a microloan. People shouldn't be choosing between paying for food and paying for medical bills. For example, if they have a chronic condition that can cost up to 50 quid per month, that is an unexpected financial stress. So that microloan between 25 and £100 would help cover that, or like help pay bills.
Thank you.
As part of my key priorities, more financial support for students, I'm voting for the university to become a UK guarantor. So that would not only help students beforehand to save money when university act as a rent guarantor and you don't need to pay 6 months rent in advance, as well as I'm promoting more part-time jobs that are on campus, and I'm collaborating with all the businesses that are in Egham to give more part-time job opportunities to students who are currently studying, and also more employability things when they pass out, as well as this not only defends students from getting into any financial trouble, but moreover gives them a chance to earn a bit of money and deal with whatever circumstances they may be.
Perfect, thank you. Ashley.
I received scholarship in my first year, and that was it. And then I asked the university, hey, can I apply for more in my second and third? And they said, no, we only give scholarships to first years. So in that situation, I think providing students with alternatives instead of airing them could be a good initiative to start with.
Thank you.
I would, again, like to promote the careers services so people can like easily get jobs and understand what jobs are available within Surrey, but also in the wider Egham community, like in Guildford and Slough and stuff like that. And I'd like to prioritise letting students know about the financial aid that is available on campus for students to sign up for, and also making it more accessible so students actually know what is available for them, like making the informational pamphlets and social media posts so it's easier accessible information so people know what there is to help them out there.
So the thing with finances is I don't want to overpromise. I know that the previous two presidents have tried to kind of combat on SU prices and things like that, and I know that if they could, they would. And so my financial policies are more catered towards education. I think, like some of the other candidates have said, we don't know what scholarships, financial aid and loans are out there, and we need to be educated on what is available to support us.
As VP of Education, how will you ensure that student voices are represented in high-level university decision-making?
Matthew.
So, like I said, I've worked as a school rep for the past year, which means I've had to deal with student voice on the daily. That's surrounding issues like examinations, timetable clashes, inclusion of students, and as would be expected, I've had pushback from faculty. But the point is that you need to remember why you're there. If I'm elected, I'm there to serve you because you're my main priority, and at the end of the day, that's what I'm there for. I'm going to do that and I'm going to fight for you.
Perfect, thank you. Ali?
I mean, we can't discount the importance of using surveys. I know it's boring. A lot of people ignore the surveys in their email inboxes, but they are really essential to use and to gain feedback from people you might not speak with on a personal level, like one-to-one in person. I think also communicating with other people, like the school reps, people who are on the lower levels, like in the course reps, community officers, executives, is really important to gain voice. But I also think it's important to be a visible face that the average student who maybe not be in one of those leadership roles can approach you and kind of give you those feedbacks that they might not give otherwise.
On this matter, I kind of take a two-step approach. So the first kind of point is about communication, like Abby's mentioned. We get a lot of frequent emails, but we may not check them all. But I firmly believe in using all the sources that are available, so the inclusion communities, the academic communities, and sports and societies, in order to get this reach as far as possible. And then I would also like to actively involve students, not just via surveys, but also via inviting them into things such as focus groups and workshops.
Perfect, thank you. Our next question is, so as many of us know, lots of students feel unprepared for life after university. What initiatives would you specifically introduce to bridge the gap between education and employment? Abby?
I mean, I was personally involved in planning and running the Humanities Meet the Grads night. I know a lot of the other schools do a similar night. I think having connections to alumni who've done similar degrees to you and knowing what pathways are available is really essential. I think making that a little bit more year-round, so making those connections a little bit more visible, being able to like either submit some sort of like list of alumni who'd be willing to be contacted about the degrees and sort of the career paths they follow. I think also a lot of students don't know that you can access the career service even after graduation, so I think it's important for them to be aware of that as well.
So from my experience within psychology, I've kind of witnessed the success of the recent coffee catch-ups that we've had, in which students and lecturers can discuss in a more informal setting, and I know that has led to some of the students in my cohort getting research opportunities, and also there have been events where students have spoken to previous alumni, and again that's led to further opportunities to work. But I'm very passionate about this being student-led. I'm very passionate about listening to student voices and them giving us ideas about what events we've learned for student learning.
Thank you. And Matthew?
So within the university, we've obviously got the career service, which is a great resource. But something that's perhaps limited about that is that it's not necessarily tailored for your discipline. So if you're a politics student, you'd probably be best getting career support from the department, which is why one of my priority 8 is like departmental careers networking events. So I've run some of those as LSS rep, working with economics and politics to highlight different pathways that you could go into. So working with things like that and CV building workshops with people who know what they're talking about within your department.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, and the final one. What's your top 3 priorities for improving the academic experience of students? Yeah, that's my
So my priorities are student-friendly timetables. So that's looking at things like publishing timetables for optional modules in advance. So you don't apply for things and get disappointed when you don't have them. You'll know what you'll be able to access. Reducing time spent between lectures, so you have more free time, whether that's to work or do sports societies, things like that. Another is personal tutor support, making sure they work for you and are accessible and that you can meet them as frequently as you'd like. And then finally, social and study spaces. There are a lot of spaces on campus throughout the day that are available that the university don't advertise, so I look at sharing those with students.
Thank you. Poppy? So my top priority is about improving and increasing the amount of study and social spaces on campus. Around 40% of our current cohort are now commuting students, so they need a place to go during the day, whether it be between lectures. And I think a lot of our cohort has suffered academic time during COVID, so I think on-campus experience is a big part of that. And then my second point is about personal tutor support. I've had friends and people in my department who have had changing in personal tutors and have bad experiences with them. So I hope to review this during the process. Sorry, my final one is about car parking, as I think parking is also a big issue.
Thank you. Abby?
I think my top priority is social and study spaces. I think there is a lack of those on campus, and like Matthew said, there are a lot of vacant academic rooms, but also SU venues that aren't used during the daytime and could be repurposed. I've already kind of spoken a little bit about the networking opportunities I think we can put in place. Building on that, I think we could also build better connections in London. We have great access to a lot of universities who we have connections with, and I think encouraging societies to pair with their kind of fellow schools would be really good. And the last one about timetables, I think it's really good just to have the balance between your studies and non-studies, having the chance for people to work outside their jobs and explore other extracurriculars.
Perfect, thank you. We're now going to move on to our audience submitted question. So this one reads, how would you collaborate with other sabbatical officers to create a more unified student voice in our community?
So I think, again, it relates to sort of the priorities I've laid out. I mentioned sports clubs in student-friendly timetables, and obviously that's going to involve working with VP societies and sports because they're going to be the expert on that. When it comes to personal tutors, it's looking at well-being to make sure, you know, personal tutors are taking care of that. I do know a personal tutor who made someone cry and then hung up on them, so that's not ideal. And then obviously for social and study spaces, that's going to be a real team effort for everyone to make sure they're accessible for students. So it's all about collaboration.
In my kind of current role as Women's Student Community Officer, I believe I have collabed with all of the current sabbatical officers. So I've previous experience kind of doing collaborative events. And again, as previously mentioned, personal tutoring is one of my top priorities as well. So again, this kind of falls into a well-being realm. And I'm really passionate being from a smaller sports club myself. So I would also work with VP sports societies in that aspect.
Perfect, thank you.
As a president of a departmental society, there is a massive overlap between societies that are from departments and from being involved in those sort of things. So I think there is an overlap there between the education and the societies. I've been part of the sport, so I think it's important to be able to balance your education aspects and being in the sport. I think there is obviously, education is the core of our university experience, our degrees are the core of why we're here. I think having the wellbeing support to support that and making sure that you're not having financial burdens, but also any sort of academic burdens, I think there is a massive overlap there as well. And yeah.
So as president of the SU, do you plan to engage with students who are unaware and or disinterested in the SU's work?
So I think a lot of this is down to how the union communicates with students, because I think that most students, even if they're not part of a society or a sports club, they know they exist, they know that there's a nightclub on campus, even if that's not something that they engage with. But on the lobbying side, I think there is a lot more to be done to talk about what's happening in that space. Like, I'll use the policy inquiries as an example. So some of you may have filled in the commuter survey, and if you did, I think we need to work a lot more on highlighting where that's being taken, so the spaces that the recommendations from that are being raised in and what change that is influencing.
Thank you. Josh?
I think that's really important to show people what's being done, because I think a lot of students struggle with the idea that what's said we're going to do isn't done. I think that's really important in engaging those disinterested students. And then for those that are unaware, I think we could reach out using more mediums, whether that's other social media accounts like I'm not RHUL. They've got good reach, they've got good engagement from their followers, so I think we should be working with them on that.
Thank you. Lily.
I think what people are saying is completely true. I think with engaging with students, I think it's just about explaining what the student union actually is. I think a lot of people just know us for like the nightclubs and the venues, but also looking at like the community we have on campus, all about societies and sports clubs and what we actually hold power to do. And I think one way to do this, I think social media is our biggest weapon. I think going out on social media instead of doing blog posts and stuff like that, going out on social media, doing reels and stuff, making engagement with TikToks, I think that's the best thing to do. I also want to introduce like extremely student get-togethers as well to speak about things.
Thank you.
I think I think I'll echo everything that they said, but I think what's the most important point here is how to engage them. I can't be asked to read the long emails that they keep on sending every freaking week, and I think that's true. Like I can't do it. But I think last year, when I think it was Shara and I don't know who it was, but they came to Hall Life, and then we had a lot of those welcome kitchen meetings where a lot of the students, where a lot of the sabbatical officers engage with the students in halls, and there are 3,000 students that are living on campus. So yeah.
Sorry. Yes.
So I completely understand that there's a reluctance to reach out to the SU in terms of just generally getting the information that students actually need. So by tackling that, I really want to introduce introductive sessions to break down the makeup of SU and how it operates as a non-profit and how it benefits students just generally. So I'd want to introduce this throughout Freshers Week so that new students and also students that are already on campus understand how the SU operates, but also to do this during Refreshers Week as well through the introduction of Freshers Fair.
Perfect, thank you so much. Perfect. On to the second question. So how will you ensure that students are aware of how SU operates and how they can get involved in the decision-making process?
So transparency, basically. A union should be for its members, and it should be shaped by its members. And if someone asks why a choice has been made, it's important that I'm able to be honest about that. So if something can't change right now or needs to feed into a long-term project, I need to hold my hands up and say, yeah, it's going to take a while, but the work is being done, and it's being done in these spaces with these people, and these are the relationships that will help me make that change. And I think when students provide their feedback, they need to know that that is feeding into actual decision-making capabilities.
Perfect, thank you so much. Liv? I was going to say, leading on Maddie, I completely agree. I think transparency is literally everything. I think you need to be able to trust the people who lead the student union, and just by being open and honest about that is exactly to do that. I think also about talking about the executives that we have. So the vice presidents, chair executives called WCD, head execs and SSOs, and I think just being more informative to students about what those actually are and how they can get involved in being part of our decision-making body through that way and hold us across the county.
Thank you.
I think it's, again, the transparency is incredibly true, and I think we need to get out and engage with the students in person. Yes, the emails are boring. People don't often like to engage with them. Yes, they're very important, but if we can get out and engage, I think that would be helpful. Like if I could go around and hand out crisps every week, drive around campus, I would love to do it, but that would be too expensive. But yeah, and using the social media outlets again to engage with students.
I think along with transparency, accessibility is key as well. As Josh said about the engagement and giving a talk for free. So I think accessibility, whether it be through live Q&As and social media updates, or having stronger course rep and society involvement, and having more face-to-face engagement, being out there, because most of the students don't even know who the sabbatical officers are. I think just pushing that is very important as well, and then just make it more easier for everyone.
So echoing off of what everyone said, I totally understand the argument surrounding transparency and engagement. So by tackling this, I really want to introduce SU pop-ups to introduce a team and just to engage with students, because what I said earlier, there is a reluctance for people to actually walk up to the SU team just on a day-to-day basis and get to know them on a personal level. So I believe by nurturing these relationships
and actually talking to students and letting them know that we're there for them is the best way to go about letting them know that their decision making is what's crucial.
Perfect, thank you so much. And our last sort of pre-written question. What campaigns would you launch, or for our current SABs, would you continue to push for during your time in office?
I love campaigns. It's been made a joke that I'm the campaign SAB within this. I think one side, first of all, I'd like to continue on is with the Never OK campaign, the anti-sexual harassment campaign, and the Stamp Out Spiking campaign, looking at anti-spiking on campus. But a new one that I want to introduce is called the Stronger Together campaign. So essentially that will standardise student safety across campus and also introduce a new equality, diversity and inclusion policy at the SU.
I think I'll focus on financial support and housing issues, which are the top two priorities I have. Whether it be foster hardship fund access, making it more accessible for everyone, and making sure the eligibility criteria is clear, flexible tuition payments, having a real-time maintenance tracker 24/7, and having campus off-campus safety as well, making sure there's street lighting in the local area, liaising with the local landlords, and also making sure there is 24/7 emergency repairs for issues like heating and boiler issues.
I would continue to support the campaigns that are important to students, like Wellbeing Week, Safe Sex Week, and Give It a Go, and the Careers Fair. And I would launch the Back to Basics campaign, because we've got to ensure that there's, you can access a high standard service, whether that be career support, financial support, because those things are there, but people don't know how to access them. And I want to support societies more through a fairer funding system, and just making sure we get those basics right. Whether that be booking venues, minibuses, they shouldn't be being double booked. It should be simple. And again, basic necessities like safe routes.
So this week students get to vote on their priorities for the next year, and so my campaigns as president would be based around what students have said there, because priority 8 only works if students then go and see their own decision-making power. And as president, you are the unified voice for students, so I would take my inspiration directly from them.
Thank you. So in terms of campaigns that I'd like to introduce, I already have spoken to a lot of you in terms of what you guys actually want the SU to do for university students. So I want to introduce SU membership initiatives, networking initiatives to target different underrepresented groups that don't feel as if their voice is being heard, such as postgrads, international students and community students. As a commuter myself, I totally understand that there's just been a reluctance to actually have our needs be represented in a way which we believe that's appropriate. So I'd like to open up different information hubs to target different needs that people may have.
Okay, so we're going to go to our question from the audience. And the question is, topics such as Backgate have been discussed for 3 years and no one has been able to do it. What makes you different?
So this is what I was talking about earlier, about being transparent about when something is a long-term piece of work and when it feeds into wider university strategies, wider university initiatives, or papers that need to go through multiple levels of governance. And it's really, really boring when we say it out loud like that. But the fact of the matter is, the university moves slowly, and our job is to keep on, year after year, keeping them accountable until the change that students want to see actually comes to fruition.
On Backgate, I went to film a campaign video to highlight the problem and found out that the gate has been broken. So on transparency, students should have been told that the gate was broken, because that is a long way around to have to go when the gate was open on a night out. So starting on transparency, that's there. And I will work to fight, or I will fight to make sure that they don't try and fix it, because they are trying to fix it currently.
I think with big projects like that, it's going into it long-term and short-term goals. So obviously the long-term goal would be to keep it open until after the SU nights and stuff on specific nights. But looking at short-term goals as well, which are actually can be achievable in short term. So whether that's opening it for like an extra hour, even just extending that time by a little bit, so then it paves the pathway for it to continue on throughout the years as well.
Thank you.
So I understand that there's only so much we can do in terms of the Backgate issue, but obviously your say matters, and I can only do so much in terms of what I believe. So that's why I want to go back to students and ask what exactly they want to be done about Backgate and what their queries need to be answered and how we can go about doing that. So it's not just what the SU want, but also what the students want to be done as well, which I really want to push out there.
Thank you.
I think everyone over here wants the best for students and for the whole wider community here in the university. And as Madeline said, I think some of these things are very boring and lengthy and they take time, whether it be the parking issue on campus or the Backgate issue. But I think if we start taking the right steps now, maybe after 2 years, 3 years down the line, we'll probably see something really good and Backgate will be open 24/7. But I think it's very important to get the students involved in this and be more transparent.